Thank you for visiting our website, unmuzzledchat.com, and checking into the content of this video. Now, I know together we can change this world for the better. Finally, we are no longer just screaming into the void about threats. We now have tangible solutions to a big threat we are all facing. And in this video, I want to share some very strong reasons as to why we need a true shield, proper protections, and cover precisely what it is exactly we need protections from. Thankfully, there is endless information out there on this very topic, and my hope is to go over just enough to create a thirst for us all to look into this in more depth for ourselves and not just take my word for it. Now, as we dive in, I want us to start asking ourselves, and throughout this dive, why has this not become common knowledge? In addition, who might benefit to keep this very information from becoming common knowledge? I can think of a few. Can you? Ask yourself, couldn't it be possible that the very reason we are not fully in the know at this moment is simply due to censorship, shadow banning, suppression, propaganda, basically the control over information as a whole? We have seen this before, even recently, regarding other threats to our health. I believe we cannot even fully grasp as to how impactful this has been all around. More on this later. Just note, there is a lot of noise, false information out pumped by Google, mega platforms, funded by big tech that have extreme conflicts of interest, to say the least. Now, I must admit, the more research I have done on this very topic, the more utterly shocked I find myself in more ways than just one. Allow me to start this dive with showing you a very simple test you can do yourself with some very cheap EMF readers that are available online. All I gotta do is turn this on. This particular one has EF, MF, RF, and I'll set it to RF on the screen. It will now pick up radiation. Yes, you heard that right. Radiation. Allow me to share some information. Here we go. Basic searches, folks. RF setting on frequency meters tells us what? Now they're trying to dress it up. The strength of a radio frequency signal being received or transmitted. Okay, let's ask in this one. Microwave frequency is known as what? Microwave frequency is known as a range of electromagnetic radiation with wavelengths between 1 millimeter and 1 meter. Electromagnetic radiation. That's talking about a microwave, folks. So what's being emitted from a lot of our devices? Is it a radio frequency, or could it possibly be this microwave electromagnetic radiation frequency? Known side effects to human mind body from microwave frequency. Microwave frequency exposure, particularly at high intensities or prolonged duration, has been linked to several adverse effects on the human mind, body, primarily through non-thermal mechanisms. Neurocognitive impairment. Exposure to microwave radiation, e.g. 2.45 gigahertz. So it gets into some of the technical terms. Kind of goes above my head too. You're not alone. But this has been associated with reduced learning and memory, cognitive dysfunction, tissue damage at 2 decibels that it's stating here. Now we'll get into the studies and information that prove anything within close proximity above 1 decibel is actually harmful. But just to show some of the known negative impacts, we're talking about neurochemical and structure changes. oxidative stress and DNA damage, neurological symptoms, damage to our cellular mechanisms. The list goes on and on. But just to look in symptoms from frequencies to kind of dumb it down: headaches, dizziness, nausea, fatigue, sleep disturbances, eye strain, joint pain, tinnitus, and a sensation of pressure in the head or abdomen. There are so many known negative effects. So let's answer the question. Remember, it has been proven in many of the scientific studies that anything above 1 decibel in close proximity for long durations is harmful to us on a cellular level. That being said, I have a microwave right here, and let's take some readings and compare the output of this microwave with my cellular device. I want it to be known, I've made this studio basically a Faraday box at this point. So I have this meter on. Have you seen any decibels showing up? Holding this in front of the laptop, it's hardwired. In fact, this laptop is in airplane mode as I speak. If it wasn't, this meter would be doing some output. I could just kind of wave it around for your proof. All around, holding it up to this microwave. I'll open it up just to show you it is a microwave. Okay, this microwave's digital display unfortunately no longer works, but the microwave still functions and works. And you can see the light kick on in the background, even though it's faint. But I can push the buttons, you can hear it. We'll reset it, hit the pizza option, hit start. And as you can hear, this meter's now screaming. All right, now we'll shut this off. Now there's a freeze, a hold on the screen, and I want to bring this closer so you can see specifically. It leveled out, and this was pretty much the decibel it was maintaining. 22.26 with a peak of 22.58. Now that is a microwave frequency, not a radio frequency. So I'll take it off the hold just to turn this on one more time. You see the meter going. Now instead of just shutting it off, let me open it. Now I'm not pushing any buttons on this, so you can see, and I'm not going to edit this segment, so there's no funny business. I'm going to grab my phone, have the case off. You can see the serial sticker, just the phone. Microwave's open. There's no beeping, no decibels showing up on this device. It's already picking up the phone because I just brought it into the picture. So let's go ahead and turn this on and see what it does. Now, I'm not on a call. I'm not streaming anything. Okay? And that was just really quick. And I don't want this thing next to me. I'm sorry. I don't. And I'm covering it with something. We'll show you that in just a second. But look at the peak, folks. 26.12. Now, the 11.3 was, I kind of held it at a bad moment in time. It was higher than 20. In fact, I've seen my device go high 30s. But once again, that's during calls, that's streaming. The fact of the matter is, what does that tell us? This meter is set to pick up the microwave frequency. We saw the output of the microwave. Now we saw the output on the cellular device. What does that tell us? That's a microwave frequency that our phone is putting out. We have proof right there, really quickly, not streaming, not on a phone call, that the output of the cellular device, in most cases from me experimenting with this, is higher than our microwaves. Mind-blowing, right? Now, more on this in other videos, but just to show you real quick how effective this TruShield material is, check it out. It's a singular layer of that military grade protection. Let's grab the phone. Let's put it on. Now, the cell phones will ping right there, even with it off, because you get a message, GPS tracker, all the other million apps we have. There's 1,000,001 reasons why it continuously communicates even being off. But if you turn it on or I end up on a call, it's generally higher. But as we go underneath that singular layer, what does it do? Zeros out. Come above it. Come below it. And I'm right up next to it. Now this does work as a shield. As you start creeping just past, I don't know what more proof you need other than that right there. Why are we carrying these devices without any second thoughts? Men, can you imagine the impact it's having in our front pockets? And we wonder why testosterone is tanking across the board, or women for that matter. The impacts it's having on reproductive organs. Heck, for both men and women. The impact it's having in the womb as babies are being created. Or what kind of impact it's having on our children as they are developing. Why do we carry them in our chest pockets, or for women, tucking them into their bras? How do we leave them right next to our heads on our nightstands all night? Now, many of the thousands of studies have gathered indisputable proof connecting these very devices to causing cancer, among other issues, by just having them in close proximity of our bodies. And often this directly correlates to where we carry them the most. This should truly be enough information right here, but it is important we continue to share other sources to really bring to light this very threat. If you would like the links posted on this video, we're going to post this on Unmuzzled Chat. And like we do with every video, in the description, we will add all the links. So if you would like to watch any of them, we clip up in its entirety or share it exclusively with your loved ones, come find us on Rumble, Unmuzzled Chat. Here's RFK dropping some truth. Give this a listen.
Okay, my concern about 5G is that the RF radiation from 5G is dangerous. It penetrates it disrupts the blood-brain barrier. It also is associated with glioblastomas and other cancers. And it causes a lot of other dramatic health effects. And there are literally thousands and thousands of studies in that. I've litigated on that issue, and I've won in the Federal Court of Appeals. So, you can say it's a conspiracy theory, but the Federal Court of Appeals, I also won a case on Monsanto and glyphosate that it caused non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and that was called a conspiracy theory. Right. What I've said about 5G is, it is dangerous. It is underregulated. Other countries regulate it much better than us. And we need to protect our children. We should not be having these antennas on elementary schools. We should be warning people appropriately. Do not put that cell phone next to your head. Because, we're seeing this epidemic now of glioblastomas, and almost all of them are connected to the year that you favor the cell phone with.
Right.
There's study after study that shows that, and I'm in litigation on that issue right now. And,
Whew, powerful stuff, right? Now, there are over 10,000 studies that support precisely what he is covering. Let's blow this up and go through this public health warning. Wireless devices emit microwave radiation, a known biological hazard. Cell phone towers, smart meters, Wi-Fi modems, anything wireless. And it's only getting worse. 5G is proven very harmful. 6G isn't just coming, it's here in China and many other countries. So buckle up, it's only getting worse. But let's go through this health warning. Every time you use a wireless device, you are exposed to microwave radiation. The World Health Organization, WHO, labels this radiation a class 2B possible carcinogen in the same category as lead and DDT and chloroform. Cell and cordless phones and other wireless devices, cell antennas and towers and smart meters and microwave ovens and Wi-Fi routers all create electrosmog. Microwave radiation is harmful. Scientists link wireless radiation to health problems, both short and long term. Cancer, infertility, damage to DNA in fetuses, sleep problems, memory and cognitive impairments, heart problems, immune deficiencies, and many others. Many people suffer from electromagnetic sensitivity, EMS, and cannot tolerate common exposures, seriously impacting their health, jobs, housing, and social lives. Folks, I am one of those. That's why I'm so passionate in this topic. I've often even correlated myself to the canary in the coal mine. Now, will the miners acknowledge that canary singing, dying? Government regulations do not protect you. FCC guidelines were written decades ago and ignore the current science linking wireless radiation to adverse health effects. In 2015, Berkeley, California passed a law requiring consumer safety warnings at cell phone retailers. The wireless industry is suing under the guise of free speech. Get out of here. Okay, we can acknowledge there's extreme bias for big tech and many others to get ahead of this. Folks, this is so huge. Let's continue. We're very visual creatures at the end of the day. This very basic classroom experiment, it just tells us so much. Check this out.
One of them is going to be exposed to high levels, and the whole reason that we've covered them in tinfoil is because the environment of this classroom is filled with that. Right, so we had to try to isolate the plants inside of there and not let the Wi-Fi get in there.
Good job.
I don't really know if it'll affect anything because, like, I grow plants in my, like, I have Wi-Fi in my house and I grow plants all the time and they grow fine.
It's gonna die.
You think so?
Yeah.
Wow. 30 hours. Look at all that growth. Wi-Fi off. And it's isolated. You did a really good job on isolating it. Oh dang, 30 hours in, folks. Look, Wi-Fi on. Unbelievable. What does this tell us?
It blew my mind that the Wi-Fi off, like, the plants are growing.
Yeah.
But Wi-Fi on, the plants are growing. So I think that when the Wi-Fi's on, it's affecting the world.
Thanks
like,
for
affecting
noticing.
the whole entire world.
Right.
What are
Now, I know we're not plants, but you could look at the scientific data yet again. The 10,000 plus studies is to the impacts on the human body. Whether you're showing signs and symptoms now or not is irrelevant. You're being bombarded. Think of all the other impacts it could have, whether you're symptomatic or not. Needless to say, it is hindering us and keeping us from becoming and walking around in the best versions of ourselves. The assumption of safety is being used to justify the rollout of 5G technology. Unbelievable. Significant effects. No significant effects. It is significant across the board, folks. Now, this doctor, Sharon Goldberg I applaud you. Now, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, this dates back to 2018. Once again, how is this not common knowledge? Almost a decade later, there's no regard to our relation with these devices. Heck, we're being sold the bill of convenience, and I admit it's extremely convenient to live in the wireless world. But to our detriment, we can only claim ignorance for so long, right? Needless to say, it's important to be aware, be conscious, integrate some levels of protections just to maintain our health across the board. Let's go ahead and listen to Sharon in this legislation hearing.
And committee members, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I'm Sharon Goldberg. I'm an internal medicine physician. I've practiced medicine for 21 years, and my background is mostly academic internal medicine, hospital-based, clinical research, and medical education. I am going to skip many of the things I wanted to say because I didn't realize it was only 5 minutes. Wireless radiation has biological effects, period. This is no longer a subject for debate when you look at PubMed and the peer-reviewed literature. These effects are seen in all life forms: plants, animals, insects, microbes. In humans, we have clear evidence of cancer now. There is no question. We have evidence of DNA damage, cardiomyopathy, which is the precursor of congestive heart failure, neuropsychiatric effects. So 5G is not a conversation about whether or not these biological effects exist. They clearly do. 5G is a conversation about unsustainable healthcare expenditures. Why do I say this? We've been sitting on the evidence for EMR and chronic disease for decades. And now we are seeing all these epidemics appearing. So diabetes is the first epidemic. I think most of you know the statistics. They're very scary.
I just want to note, did you notice how she said EMR versus EMF? EMF, in talking about it, is a frequency or a radio wavelength. What is that doing? We're deceiving ourselves as to the actual threat. What is actually taking place? She says EMR because it's a radiation, a known harmful wavelength that's radiating our bodies, essentially destroying us from inside out.
1 in 3 American children will become diabetic in their lifetime, and if they're Hispanic females, the number is 1 in 2. So what does this have to do with wireless radiation? Wireless radiation and other electromagnetic fields, such as magnetic fields and dirty electricity, have been clearly associated with elevated blood sugar and diabetes.
Wow.
That is what the peer-reviewed literature says. It is not opinion.
Wow.
The closer you live to a cell tower, the higher your blood glucose. That is based on hemoglobin A1C measurements. So the idea with small cells of putting the cells closer to people's homes and bedrooms scientifically is very dangerous. And from an economic perspective, it's dangerous.
Agreed.
And you may not know this. I was shocked to find this out. But the way you create a model of diabetes in rats in the lab is by exposing them to 2.4 gigahertz. And this is not for long-term exposure. I don't have time to talk about the costs, but the huge problem with diabetes really is chronic kidney disease. End-stage renal disease, the worst complication of diabetes, leads to hemodialysis. Hemodialysis is an automatic qualification for Medicare. And if you don't qualify for Medicare, we still have to dialyze the patient. And the state ends up paying in many different instances. So renal failure is 1% of Medicare, but it takes up 7% of all Medicare expenditures. So the other epidemics that clearly link from the science with electromagnetic radiation are related to mental health. This is straight from PubMed. This isn't my opinion. This is science.
Dr.
Okay?
Goldberg,
Love
for
it.
those of us who aren't physicians, what is PubMed?
I'm sorry. It's just it's our National Library of Medicine. This is where you would go. This is just the peer-reviewed literature.
I like how she's
So
creating
we have
curiosity.
3 epidemics that clearly, they're essentially one epidemic. We have deterioration of mental health in the United States. And if you look really at the science, what does it show? And these epidemics are our suicide epidemic, epidemics in so shootings and the opioid epidemic. And I don't have 5 minutes is not the time to talk about this. This is in the peer-reviewed literature. I have a file to submit for the record, but these are facts. These are things that have just been glossed over by the wireless industry, and I really don't have time to talk about them in 5 minutes. I wish I did. But we need to examine our epidemics in the context of our EMF exposures.
Yes.
What does that mean? That means that the CDC tracking these epidemics we need to start measuring how much radiation are people being exposed to. And before we roll out 5G, and this means
we didn't do it.
There are 4 kinds of electromagnetic fields that we know are harmful to human health. So radio frequency radiation, magnetic fields, dirty electricity, and electric fields, okay? Our exposure, any given person, and all humans are affected by EMFs.
So
Our
good.
given exposure has nothing to do with the research that my colleagues are going to cite with the National Toxicology Program. That is an assessment of the risk of 1 cell phone in the near field, okay?
Jeez.
What is our exposure in a day? It's not 1 cell phone.
Right.
It's cell phones, it's multiple wireless networks, it's smart meters, it's cell towers. It's this sandwich, and it all adds up. And this is a serious problem for occupational health, public safety, and personal safety. And I feel that it's irresponsible to be even talking about the Internet of Things and rolling out a new untested technology when we're not even measuring what are our current exposures from the current networks.
That's key. Folks, when she just referenced big tech and these cellular companies and the providers, there's so much money. So we could dive into the why. Why are they covering or hiding? But just on the financial side of it, big tech and the providers got selective. When you dive into it, to her point, singular device, at a distance, limited exposure. Yep, it's good. Green light. Most of us aren't even aware when you buy a new phone and you dig through that user manual that is many, many pages they have in there not for hand use. We're spending over $1,000 now on a device and literally using it in our hands and not knowing any better. This is extremely telling stuff. Now, would it be a good business model for big tech and wireless providers to make this common knowledge? No. Just even based on the financials, not to mention some other more nefarious, potentially even evil, covert agendas.
Testimony, would you again provide us with your credentials? You said at the beginning.
Yes, I'm an MD. I'm board certified in internal medicine. I've been assistant professor at different medical schools, mostly in New York, most recently the University of Miami. And I got interested in electromagnetic fields after my administrator at the University of Miami gave me a new iPhone. I used it for 20 minutes on speaker, and my finger was burning at the end of the call. So that was years ago. I started reading about the science and connecting with other scientists, and really my expertise, I've taken care of a lot of patients with chronic disease. So
it's so fascinating to hear everybody's why. She got sent down this path just due to noticing a tingling in her finger in her hand. Now she's going on to talk about chronic illness. And to our detriment, we're not seemingly responding until we ourselves are negatively afflicted to where it's utterly debilitating. It's like the dumbing down of the radiation effect is so effective that it's kind of like we just don't care to know until it's too late.
when I talk about diabetes and, for instance, heart failure, that, the National Toxicology Program shows clear evidence of cardiomyopathy in that study. In other words, that's a precursor to congestive heart failure. And I want to just read one thing, if you'll allow me. This is from the United States Renal Data System, Healthcare Expenditures for Persons with Chronic Kidney Disease. So over half of the 2015 Medicare spending for beneficiaries aged 65 and older was for those who had diagnoses of CKD, diabetes mellitus, or heart failure. All three of these conditions, when you look as an independent scientist, not someone who's funded by wireless, all of those three conditions are linked. So diabetes and heart failure are linked with EMF exposures. It's very clear.
Doctor, what are you're a trained medical professional?
Yes.
We don't have one on the panel. What are we to make with of the American Cancer Society, for example, telling us there's no evidence of harmful product?
Well, at this point, there's a national and international 5G appeal. I don't know how many thousands of people have signed. But the point is that many of these organizations have conflicts of interest. And I can't speak to, I don't know who's on their board, who made these decisions. My testimony comes from, I've been reading this literature for years. And really, I got interested in it because I spent my career taking care of so many patients who were sick in the hospital, that when I found out about the links, I was just shocked. I couldn't believe it. So I've read these articles myself, and the experts who don't work for telecom, who are in their independent research, everyone comes to the same conclusion. This isn't, we're not in a place where we should be debating this anymore. This is exactly what happened with tobacco. It's the exact same thing. Wow. And the only people who are able to protect Americans are our legislators, because we don't have any relevant regulatory.
Okay, let's do a brief pause just for a moment and ask ourselves, what is she doing right here in this very clip? Who is she addressing? Our legislators. When was this done? 2018. What has come of it? Well, we can see the full rollout of 5G since then. We haven't gone out there and done the proper measurements and testing that she's ad nauseum keeps resorting back to we must do, that isn't being done for public health and safety. So, fantastic job. She's too smart for the people she's even presenting to. And at the end of the day, who do they really answer to and have shown us they answer to? Well, occasionally we the people, when we get loud enough and organized enough, but it's money. Follow the money. That's who they answer to. And other means, but we won't get into that in this moment. So after nearly a decade, they are not our solution. Now, don't get me wrong. It's fantastic to hear even RFK speaking out with the platform he has in this moment, but he's not our solution either. The only solution we have are ourselves. So the question truly becomes, will we effectively organize and get loud enough once and for all to find a true remedy to this great threat she is beautifully laying out before us?
Guidelines to protect human health. The FCC guidelines were developed for short-term exposures, 6 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on it's a phone or an outdoor exposure. And they have absolutely no connection to the biological effects that have been very clearly summarized in the Bio Initiative. That's a huge document generated. All of the summaries are there. I've got it here for you if anyone wants to read it. I have very concise summaries and abstracts documenting everything that I'm saying. So I know there are plenty of people here that are probably rolling their eyes.
No,
in academic medicine, we have a name for what's happening now with 5G. This is called, and what has happened with wireless communication, this is called, 5G is an untested application of a technology that we know is harmful. We know it from the science. This is, in academics, this is called human subjects research.
Right.
Human subjects research is very tightly regulated. You can't just roll out some type of a research project on human beings.
But they're doing it.
A, you have their informed consent, so they understand the risks and benefits. And B, you have the approval. Like someone has actually, examined the literature and said, okay, this research project, we believe that it's safe. There's no evidence in the science to indicate that it would not be safe. We have decades of evidence to
Right.
show that it is not safe.
Right.
Dr. Goldberg.
Thank you.
And very briefly, if you can, what do you mean by conflict of interest?
Oh my gosh.
I mean that, so I've taught, one of the
He's
things that I
asking.
taught in medical school is evidence-based medicine. So teaching medical students and residents how to critically evaluate the literature, the science. And one of the first things that you teach residents is that you always have to look at the funding. So, and you can read about it. Marcia Engel, the editor of New England Journal, just wrote a great op-ed in the New York Times about researchers who are funded by private industry. The results of their research are much more likely to support whatever it is that is being funded. That's
I think
clearly,
Representative Garrett has a question.
yes.
Good morning, doctor. Just
Good
a
morning.
really quick question. What is the normal RMF that individual could be exposed to? And if these small cells are installed, what is the prediction of how much RMF the human body would experience? And then the second question would be, if we know that RMF is a issue, do we limit the amount of exposure that somebody with cardio issues in the hospitals, whether they're going through a CAT scan or, so are we limiting that because we know that just small cells alone is not the issue? It's, as you talked about earlier, it's the sandwich. So give me the normal levels, what the prediction is that the human body would experience moving forward.
Well, I'm so glad that you're asking that question. And the answer is that, well, no one's measuring. And that is the problem.
Yes.
That's the problem. Because we have, and the way I think about this is in an occupational health perspective. I think about, because people go to work and so for instance, your exposure will depend on what you do in a given day. So if one cell phone causes cancer, clear evidence of cancer,
Right.
DNA damage, heart damage, well, what happens if you work at an airport? What happens if you work in a stadium where there are 100,000 people coming to watch a football game and everyone's using their phone at the same time?
Great question.
And so the problem is that we have a very, very systematic, clear, empiric way to measure these exposures, and it's a discipline called building biology, and we actually have someone here trained in building biology, and I asked him to bring the meters. If anyone after this meeting is interested, I can show anyone exactly how we measure. Okay? But that is the problem,
Fantastic.
that we don't measure, and there are certain situations
We showed you,
relevant
folks.
to public safety where we really do need to be measuring, with firefighters, with airline pilots. Because when you activate microwave radiation inside an enclosed metal space,
Magnification.
you get amplification, you have increased power density. So think about it, an airplane, everyone's with their devices, every device is emitting radiation, and the access point is right next to the cockpit usually. So what does this do to pilots? What does this do to firefighters? We already have a submission to the FCC from Susan Foster about firefighters that were unable to function in the line of duty. This is from 2013, after exposure to a cell tower that was put up near their station, and they also have two-way communication devices that they wear. So we have to measure these exposures. That is the start, and not go ahead and roll out a whole bunch of Internet of Things
Yes.
with more devices that we're not even measuring what we're exposed to now.
Yes.
Doctor, thanks for your testimony.
Thank you.
Woo! So good. Oh, it's a lot to absorb. Now, let's just play this one real quick. Just, 28 seconds of it, because it's not just the towers, it's not just the devices. Now, this is going kind of outside our ability to do much about it unless we address, through awakening, a shift in the actual signal and wavelength that is being used. But this is being integrated into our satellites as well. Give this a listen.
5 years, we're going to see 415,000 low orbit satellites. Bill Gates says his 65,000 satellites alone will be able to look at every square inch of the planet 24 hours a day.
Wait, what is he saying? Hold the phone, folks. So these satellites getting sent up under the guise of giving us faster speeds on our cellular devices. Wait, monitoring us? So are we potentially being sold a bill of goods? Because let's just take a second. We're now experiencing 5G in its full rollout. Let's get a raise of hands. Who, in fact, has noticed their cell phone operating at speeds they never experienced before, as in faster? My hand isn't going up. In fact, dating way back, I remember in the earlier years of the web, just a couple years in, it seemed more seamless and faster speeds, less glitches than it does now. So just to humor the thought and pose the question, what really might be intended on all these rollouts? Let's play a few more seconds.
5G to harvest our data and control our behavior. Digital.
Do we need to rewind that? Let's replay that.
They're putting in 5G to harvest our data and control our behavior.
To harvest our data and control our behavior. Now, just to touch on the potential weaponization of this technology, let's go to a weapons expert from the UK, Mark Steele.
What people haven't been told, I'm a weapons systems expert. These technologies were developed for the defence industry to attack enemies on the battlefield. This is not a telecommunications upgrade. The antenna design can be up to 100,000 times more powerful than a 4G antenna. 4G antennas radiate inverse square law. 5G antennas focus the radiation. Now you'll be told by ICNIRP, etc., that there's no damaging effects from non-ionizing radiation. That is false.
Right.
Non-ionizing radiation is used in lasers to cut stainless steel. Anybody that thinks that non-ionizing radiation that is focused in a beam wave is safe is being given a false egg. It's not correct. Public Health England have stated they don't expect to see any further increase in radiation from the deployment of 400,000 5G masts across the country. That is false. We're being misled by public authorities is very, very concerning. The fact that government are stating that health effects cannot be taken into consideration in planning is extremely worrisome.
Agreed.
The fact that this technology is derived from battlefield technologies and has been deployed in battlefield. If you want to see some of the pictures that I have of people who've been attacked by this type of equipment on a battlefield, they're not very pleasant to see.
Right.
If you look at the design of the equipment, it is battlefield interrogation equipment. It's basically radar that can then focus directly at a target.
Direct targeting weaponry. Now, I don't mean to get too in the weeds regarding this specifically because after all, we just want to hone in on effective shielding to protect you. But there is a bigger aspect to this to grasp that really emphasizes how important it is we address the root of this radiation. And if we go back to RFK, it's not just monitoring, surveillance, and control, but as this gentleman just stated, a weapon. So it is, in my eyes, of the utmost importance we address this. But if we even go back further to the doctor sharing her indisputable health concerns, and all this time later, it not being addressed, now it starts to make sense. And we'll touch more on this here shortly, but why nothing's been done? Why the suppression of this information? We have exposed the millions and millions and millions of dollars that has pumped and peddled and led to control in this space regarding this topic, keeping us more so out of the know through suppression tactics, but also pumping the public square with misleading information, so we just don't really acknowledge the threat and it become more so common knowledge amongst the masses. Taking a step back gives us the clearer picture as to not just how things have become the way they are, but in a sense, the why have things become the way they are. Just bringing deeper understanding and clarity. Let's continue. Now, I forget the web pages, but you can actually access a lot of these 5G towers and see from satellite imagery, I believe even live, as to the electromagnetic frequencies, the actual radiation emitting into our environments. So wild, folks. There are ones that have been keeping up on this, and the pulsations, especially at night, have been getting worse, not better. Makes me wonder, we're waking up less rested, more inflamed, more irritable. Side note, we're going to dive into full cocoons. We're going next level with protections. We want to provide you not just the hub, the one-stop shop of information such as this, but all the proper shielding and solutions, and at affordable, tangible costs in implementing. All right, this is very shocking, but just recently, Trump literally let the cat out of the bag that cellular signals, 5G and upcoming 6G, can also be used to see into our bodies. Listen for yourself.
So we're into 6G now. I just 5G. I was a leader on 5G getting.
Wait. He just admitted being a leader to 5G, which we do know had nothing to do with our cellular connectivity. So what does that admission right there really tell us about him? I digress. Let's just continue.
And now they're up to 6. Let's do it again. What does that do? Give you a little bit deeper view into somebody's skin? See how perfect it is? I like the cameras the old days. So they just had a nice.
He's talking about surveillance. He likes the cameras of the old days. That 6G is going to be able to survey us from under the skin. Oh, did you consent to that? Do you trust that this is for our benefit and not to our detriment? I feel like some people could come across that clip and not even really absorb. That's why we're trying to just take a pause, pose the questions, hopefully to instigate and embolden individuals to investigate and research. I will throw it out there. I would love to hear about your findings. You can email me at unmuzzledchat@gmail.com. I would love to integrate that information on the podcast. This is a very powerful documentary. We'll add the link on the Rumble channel. But this really does a good job diving into so much data. It truly is a must-see. And it's so well done. I'd recommend making a night of it. Sit down, have a family night, and watch it together. Here's one of the reports: detrimental effect of mobile phone electromagnetic field. As we know, radiation. It touches on how it penetrates our blood-brain barriers, folks. Now, this man's onto something. And I do believe the propaganda that was peddled during the scam pandemic and utilizing words like COVID is actually keeping us, hindering us from honing in on the root of what was ailing us. So this is just briefly, at a minimum, going to impose other thought, which is important because we haven't gotten to the roots. And as we look, the PCR testing regarding COVID, heavy air quotes over here, folks, was defective with negative efficacy, which means false positives across the board. What a lot of folks are starting to realize now is during the shutdowns, early scamdemic, that there was a massive rollout. That's when they fired up all the 5G. So what he touches on here and connects is very important to at least consider and look into for yourself. that couldn't that potentially be the cause of what has been ailing us?
Somebody thought I said COVID. No, that's radio wave sickness. That was caused by the cell phone towers. All the 5G that rolled out, that's what caused the COVID situation.
There's a lot of information out there that supports what he's speaking about.
COVID was just the rollout of 5G, all the cell phone towers, people lost their sense of smell, lost their sense of taste, they lost their ability to think, they started losing their hair. That is radio wave sickness. That was diagnosed in the 1919 with the Kansas flu when they rolled out the radio. So 100 years later, guess what they pulled? Same exact playbook.
Right.
Just same exact playbook. Wear your mask, get your booster, take this, inject this, stay indoors. You could stay at home. If you have a Bell radio or a Bell telephone, you could stay at home and chat with friends. Same playbook. That was 1919. Kansas flu. 2020, same exact thing. That's what it is. Somebody said, I don't think COVID was 5G. There's no such thing as viruses or contagion. If I coughed on you, you don't get ill. If somebody sneezed on you, you don't get ill. What causes your illness is what you put into your body. If you microwave yourself with radio wave signals...
I can't say definitively on everything, but there's truth to what he's stating. 100%.
If you put poisons and pesticides into your body, if you think negative thoughts, if you have a lot of stress, if you don't see the sun, you become ill. That's it. There's no germs jumping all over and viruses and bacteria or anything like that.
Makes you
and
think.
People can look into the book, The Invisible Rainbow. You can also look into the book, Farewell to Virology, which is another one. 10,000 studies on how viruses are fake. You can also look into the book, Can You Catch a Cold? Which you can't. And The Contagion Myth by Tom Cowan. It's been debunked so much.
Root of pandemic. Wow. Now just humor this thought for a second. At what benefit do I have to share information like that? Get chalked up as conspiratorial, misinformation labels, deplatformed, suppressed, censored. To keep it simple, the sole reason to share that is to help us consider things, ultimately to hone in of the things that are leading to the symptoms that are ailing us. That's the point. Through open dialogue and conversation collectively, we can actually more effectively hone in on as to what are our solutions, bringing out the best versions of ourselves. George Washington, if the freedom of speech is taken away, then dumb and silent we may be led like sheep to the slaughter. Okay, it's no secret, a Muzzle Chat has been extremely oppressed. And here's a recent example. There was a moment in time patriots were screaming, hey, Grok, the AI system integrated into Elon Musk's new branding of former Twitter, now known as X, was glitching out and being honest. And there was a short window to tap into that honesty. How censored is this profile? Very strong signs of being significantly censored and shadow banned on X right now. Now, just to let you know, they caught on to this. They have since tried to fix Grok. Let me show you an example. The same question. Your profile on Muzzle Chat appears to be very lightly censored or not meaningfully restricted right now. You can't make this stuff up. This is proof of it being caught, and then this was more recent of it fixing itself. Their fix is to make it lie. We have proof of just that. This is so dangerous. Why would they do this? Could this be why things aren't becoming common knowledge through lies and deception such as this? Well, let's go into the specifics of when it was admitting to shadow banning and suppressing speech. Well, what is this in regards to? Right here. This matches classic ghost ban. Reply deboost symptoms common for accounts posting highly charged anti-vax and geoengineering. Things they don't want us to know regarding things that directly impact our health. No, folks do not go to this measure to help people. This is only a measure, suppression, tyranny. It's a tactic only evil has used. As to how effective a Muzzle Chat has been, estimated a 95 to 98% effective suppression. Doesn't this clarify for us a bit as to how these topics haven't become common knowledge, I believe we can't even effectively wrap our minds around as to how impactful this has been. Now, wouldn't a ban be more effective than a shadow ban? Shadow banning, and this is real talk, no fluff, is more dangerous than overt bans. And it's not even that close. Here's why. Stripped down to the first principles. Transparency versus deception. Overt bans are blunt, ugly, and authoritarian, but they're visible. You know you have been silenced. Others can see it. It creates friction, backlash, legal pressure, alternatives. So it creates the demand to address that. It leads to a free speech platform that said suppressors don't have control over. Shadow banning is covert. It breaks people. False free speech is worse than no free speech. That's a powerful one, because a no free speech gives us an opportunity to properly address that threat. No, this isn't a Bash X session. Come on, we know that this is happening and has been happening across the board on all the major social media platforms. It's very telling, right? And very important information to integrate. It's debatable for us to integrate all of this into our product lines, but it is imperative. It strongly leads us as to the why we are where we are, and this not being common knowledge. So it's crucial to touch on. And the fact that X is now touted as this free speech platform liberated by Elon Musk, let's not be deceived. It's giving us the illusion of freedom of speech, which is very destructive, and it's going to make it that much harder to get this information, to get proper protections in people's hands to address everything. We must understand something here regarding censorship. If you are not blatantly breaking the law in what you have to say or share, and you face any level of censorship or suppression of any kind, then you are clearly onto something powerful that only evil does not want to become common knowledge. Why is the most heavily censored topic today regarding our health? This tells us what? The fact it's number one tells us someone above all else does not want us healthy and is actively hindering our ability to talk about it. I love you. I want to see the best version of you. Throughout history, we have used many shields that have been made from all sorts of materials that came in all shapes and sizes to suit the need. Battlefields have continuously changed over time, creating a demand for new shields to be created. That time has come yet again. And this is the why I am even here today to provide proper modern day shields that work. There are many shields that exist today, and I am grateful they are available. But I must admit, I really do not know how effective they actually are at protecting our minds and bodies. And shy of having a full degree in the science behind how they work, or potentially worse, blindly trusting that it's even doing anything. All I can do is test it with my own meter. So with that, I have two self-stickum reported radiation blocking devices that I've had on my phone for some time. You've already seen the output on this device. I'm going to go ahead and stick these back on my device as you're instructed to do from the very companies that sell these at some pretty high dollar amounts on some of them, and turn on this meter. It's already going. I'll pull my phone out of the vicinity. And what's happening with the meter? And I bring it in. Guys, what does that tell us? So you could see they're still on it. They're on the back of that phone. Two of them. Get that thing blanketed. Look, all I know from what I gather here and just showed you, and we can see for ourselves, is that there is still a need for a true shield. Once again, You see it for yourselves. This is a true shield that does not require blind trust nor a rocket science degree. It's plain and simple. Protect yourselves. Protect your loved ones. And order some true shields today. After all, the newer battlefields have been waged right here in our living rooms, in our own beds as we sleep. And I cannot wait to hear how this improves your quality of life all around. Be sure to check out other content provided on this very webpage, amuzzlechat.com. Thank you for your support. I will see you on the next Muzzle Chat podcast over on Rumble. Let's go. Until then, God bless and take care.